Today I'm going to show you a way how you can create your own grid overlays inside of DaVinci Resolve Fusion page, and they will make your life editing a lot easier. The grid overlays that we're going to be creating are the grid overlays that I've shown at the end of my last video. If you haven't seen that and you don't know what I'm talking about, these are the grid overlays. So I actually turned this into a plugin that is available for free for any channel member. So if you're a channel member, make sure to grab this plugin plus another one right from the channel members page. And if you're not a channel member, you can get this plugin as well as other plugins from my website. I'm gonna leave a link to that in the description below this video. So first of all, if you drag the effect onto an adjustment clip, nothing happens by default. That is because all of the grids are turned off. So in order to make them visible, you just have to select the ones that you wanna see. So in this case, I wanna display a rule of thirds. I'm gonna just click thirds on. And then if I'm gonna go down, you can change the color of any individual grid. You can also mix and match each of those grids. Say you want to have a small center guide as well as the rule of thirds, you can do so. So these are the grids that we're going to be creating today. And to start things off, we need a fusion composition. Now, in order to create a fusion composition, all you have to do is come up to the top left of your screen towards this effects, click on that, then go down towards this effects and just grab a fusion composition. Another way of doing this would just go into your media pool, right click and create a new fusion composition there. But we're just gonna stick with this fusion composition that I've just dragged on. Then I'm gonna go into the fusion page, and right here, all you should see is just a media out node. First up, I'm gonna make this a single viewer to make things easier because we don't need two windows for this. Then I'm gonna drag in a background and make that background transparent by clicking on the background, coming up to the inspector in the top right corner and dragging down the alpha all the way. However, if you need a little bit of assistance on how to create your grids, I highly recommend to right click in the viewer, come down to where it says guides and then show guides. You could also use the shortcut Command or Control G to activate or deactivate the grids. And I'm gonna drag in another background from the toolbar up here, and I'm gonna pipe the output of background 2 into the output of background 1 to create merge 1. So right now we have another black background, which we wanna change to white or any other color. This is gonna be the color that your grids are. In my case, I'm gonna make them white, so I'm gonna just come into the inspector, type in 1, and now we'll have a white background. Now, in order to create those grids, we need a couple of rectangle masks. And in order to get them, you can just come up to the toolbar up here. And with the background 2 selected, you can just click the rectangle tool and would automatically connect the rectangle 1 as a mask into our background. So I'm gonna come up to the rectangle 1, select that, gonna go up to the inspector in the top right corner, and I'm gonna change my width to, let's say, 0.002. So I'm gonna set my height to 2, and we have our first line. Now with the rectangle 1 selected, I'm gonna select another rectangle tool, which is rectangle 2, and I'm gonna set the width to 2, and the height to 0.002. This is our first grid. It's actually very simple, right? And if you want to store that for future use in any project, just come back to the edit page. If you don't see your power bins in your media pool, all you have to do is come up to the 3 dots right here and select show power bins. Now within the power bins folder, you got a master folder, and let's just create another folder right here and call this folder grids. And inside of the grids folder, I'm just gonna drag in this fusion composition and let go. Now I'm gonna click on the name and I'm gonna call this center grid. And now I can use that center grid, grab it and just drag it onto my timeline. Now you can also make this as long or as short as you want, depending on the length of your timeline. Now I highly recommend to place that on top of everything and just stretch it out over the entire length of the timeline. So you can always deactivate it when you don't need it or reactivate it if you need it. With this fusion composition, let's just create another grid, and let's just create a rule of thirds grid. So with this fusion composition selected, I'm gonna head into the fusion page, and since we don't wanna create those rectangles over and over again, I'm just gonna use them. So first up, I'm gonna use the rectangle 1. I'm gonna see, okay, this is the vertical line. I'm gonna offset the center because this goes from 0 to 1 on the X value, as well as on the Y value goes from 0 at the bottom to 1 at the top. On the rectangle 1, I'm gonna offset this to 33% or 0.33333, hit enter, and then I'm gonna copy this node, copy and then just paste it in one more time, and then I'm gonna offset the center to 0.66666, hit enter once again, And now you can see that we have those lines. Now let's go on and do the same thing with the rectangle 2, but this time we're going to offset the y-axis. So on the y-axis, I'm just going to type in 0.33333, hit enter, and then I'm going to copy the rectangle 2, control paste it one more time, and here I'm going to offset it to 0.66666, hit enter, and right now you can see that we have a rule of thirds grid. Now I'm going to come back to my edit page, and with my power bins already open, I'm just going to drag in this fusion composition one more time. I'm going to click on the name, and I'm going to call that, let's go with rule of thirds, hit enter, and right now I can just drag this in, and again, make it as long or as short as you want. Just deactivate that for a second. Now with my specific plugin or effect, I have those on and off switches for different grids. And if you want to create those on and off switches, you not only have to create the switch, but you will also have to turn that grid into a macro and then convert it to a DRFX file and install it. So I'm going to show you how you can create those switches. So let's just come back into the Fusion page. And in order to make this grid disappear, we want to come down to the merge, and we're going to use the blend slider in the inspector right here. So if this is 0, the grid is completely gone. If this is 1, the grid is visible. We're going to remember that, and I'm going to right click on my merge one, go to edit controls, and then first off we're going to give this a name, and this is the rule of thirds, so I'm going to call this thirds on. ID and type are fine. Now page, you can put this on whatever page that you want. Now in this case I'm going to make my life a little bit easier, and I would recommend to either use merge or common. So I'm going to put that on the merge, check integer. Range, this is important because as you can see, the blend slider goes from 0 to 1. So I'm going to type in range 0 to 1. Allowed is 0 to 1. And then I'm going to go down. This shouldn't be a slider control. This should also not be a screw control nor a range control. This should be a checkbox control. Hit tristate and then click OK. And now you can see that this box appears down here, thirds on or off. And by default, this absolutely nothing, because DaVinci Resolve doesn't know what this function should do. So we have to connect it to our blend slider right here. So I'm going to come up to the blend slider, double click in, type in equals, and now this pick width comes up. Just drag it down towards the thirds on. And now if I'm going to check it, it is on. If I uncheck it, it is off. And now if you want to turn this into a macro with this checkbox control that you want to control right from the edit page as well as the color, just highlight all the nodes except the first background one and the last media out one. Right click on one of them, just go up to where it says macro and then create macro. So this is just going to be a demonstration. So I'm going to call this thirds. I don't want to be changing my rectangle tools. So I'm just going to go down to background 2 and I just want to change the color. I'm going to go to top left red, select that, top left green, select that, top left blue, select that, and top left alpha, select that. What you have to do then is going to go down because we have to include our custom checkbox, go down to where it says merge, and then on the merge page is where we created that. And then here you can see thirds on, select that, and then hit close, save changes to macro tool 1, hit yes, and then just save it onto your desktop, call this thirds, macro tool setting is fine, gonna hit save. And once you've done that, what you want to do is right click, create a new folder on your desktop and call that folder edit. Then come into this folder, create a new folder, call this effects. And in here is where you want to place the effect. Or if you want a folder that has your name as a different subfolder within the folder, you can just call this, let's just do another folder, your name, and then put it in here. And then just drag the thirds setting or any other settings file in here. I'm gonna close this, and what you wanna do now is with this edit folder, you wanna zip it, right click and zip edit. And now with this zip folder, what you wanna do is turn that into a DRFX file. So you're gonna right click, go to rename, and then just give it whatever name that you can think of. In this case, I'm gonna call it whatever. And the important part is the ending right here. So you want to get rid of the zip and change that to DRFX, right? Hit enter, and now it will ask you whether you want to keep zip or use .drfx. In this case, I'm going to use .drfx, and I have my DRFX file created. Now I'm going to close DaVinci Resolve, and with DaVinci Resolve closed, I'm going to double click on the whatever DRFX file, and DaVinci Resolve will automatically be opened up once again, and it will ask me to install whatever to my effects library. I'm gonna hit install. And then I'm gonna come into a new project, come to my edit page, and on my effects, I'm gonna have your name as the subfolder, and then I have the third overlay right here that I can just, oops, I have to drag on an adjustment clip first. So drag on my adjustment clip and then drag on the effect. And in here on the merge setting, you have the thirds on switcher, which you can turn it on or off depending on whether you need it or not. And you can also change the color. So let's turn it on. Come here and then change the color, and you have your own grid overlays. And that's how easy it is to create your own custom grid overlays inside of DaVinci Resolve and then store them using the power bins method or the macro tool and then DRFX tool method. Now, if you want to know more about the macro tool in general, how to create even more complex plugins, highly recommend you're going to check out this video right here. Otherwise, I'm going to hope this video was helpful to you, and I'm going to see you next time. Bye.